Welcome. Hi there. I'm Neka Chiazor, Vice President of Government and Public Affairs at Cox Communications in Virginia. Don't you just love that video? I'm so glad that our connections have brought us all together today. And that's what the video was about, connections. More important than ever before, connection. Now let's consider for a moment, what is connection to you? My guess is it means something different to each of us. Watching the video reminded me of my first digital connection, and I remember it like it was yesterday. I was in high school in Nigeria. My friends and I were in technology class, and we were so excited. There were 30 of us, 30 girls, and get this, we had one computer and one dial-up connection. That's right, dial-up. A few girls, a few of my classmates held the physical phone cord, and I can still hear our teacher calling out, handle with care, because it was the only connection we had. You see, we were experiencing a digital divide, but we had a connection. And that one shared connection fueled my passion for learning. It inspired me to pursue a degree in computer science, which put me on the path that's brought me here today with all of you. So today, connection is more important than ever before. Today, for some of us, connection is doing virtual college tours with a teenager. I've done that. I'm sure you have too. Today, connection is, for some of us, helping a middle schooler with their homework, trying to find caregivers for a relative that doesn't live close by. And for some, it could be trying to find virtual trick-or-treat options. Whatever the case may be, these remote realities are possible because we have reliable broadband connections. And if Cox is your broadband service provider, I know for sure that your connection is superb, no doubt. Yet there are still students and families in our country, right here in the United States, who are in the digital divide that I experienced a long time ago. And that's why we're here. Today, you'll hear from champions who are working tirelessly to ensure that the COVID-19 pandemic does not create an irreversible learning gap for students without internet. Here are some of the folks you'll hear from today. You'll hear from the industry's first titan, Pat Esser, President and CEO of Cox Communications, a man who has gone above and beyond to be a warrior in slaying the digital divide. You're going to hear from him more on what Cox has done to bridge the digital divide and on our path forward. You'll also hear from Michael Powell, President and CEO of NCTA, the Internet and Television Association. He'll talk to us about the industry's take on the divide. Ashley Perkins, you're in for a treat. She's our Vice President of Cox Business, and she'll be sharing with us what we're doing to support schools using the CARES Act. And the CARES Act stands for the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act. You'll hear more from her on that. You'll also hear from Dr. Jesus Hara, Superintendent of Nevada's Clark County School District, who'll give us his perspective right from the front lines. There's also the Honorable Jackie Rosen, Senator from Nevada, on the Emergency Educational Connection Act. More on that. And last, certainly not least, you'll hear from the founder and CEO of Common Sense Media, Jim Steyer. He's going to share with us research that his organization has done to help us understand the digital learning challenge we currently face today. So with that, I'll turn it over to Jim. Jim, thanks for being here. And I'll turn it over to you, and I'll see all of you in a minute. Jim, over to you.
Thank you so much, Nneka, and thanks for that great introduction. It's great to be here with such a fine group of people. I am Jim Steyer. I'm the founder and CEO of Common Sense Media. We're the nation's leading kids in media organization and child advocacy group, basically dedicated to helping kids and families in school thrive in this extraordinary world of media and technology that we're all living in. And I will just say at the outset, Cox has been a partner with Common Sense really since I founded the organization about 15 years ago, and has helped us get information about media and tech out to 20, 30, 40 million people over the past couple of years alone. So you guys have been great partners, which is why I'm here today to talk about it. And as Nneka, as you said, look, the digital divide is this incredibly important issue in our society, because at the end of the day, it's about a digital learning gap for kids in this country. And as everybody on the screen knows, and as our audience knows, every child in this country deserves the chance for a good education. And we cannot have a situation where there are two Americas and two educational systems where certain kids have access to learning and can go to school. I have a 16-year-old upstairs in my house right now in his 10th grade class and doing his math and his science classes for the day. But there are literally millions of kids across this country who either don't have the requisite connectivity, the broadband connectivity in their home, or the devices they need to just go to school. So the COVID-19 pandemic that we've all been living through for the past 6 months or so has brought into light the extraordinary nature of the digital divide, and has in a sense exacerbated the existing inequalities in education. It's why I'm so glad to be here with folks like Michael Powell and the folks from Cox who care a lot about this. Now, for the research, we did the most big major national study on the digital divide a couple of months ago with a Boston consulting group, the major consulting firm, just to get a very accurate set of data about the state of the digital divide in America today. And I will be very frank with you, it is a fairly disturbing picture if you care a lot about kids and education in schools in this country. There are approximately 16 million K through 12 students, public school students in this country. That's about 30% of all of the K through 12 public school students in the United States of America, who live in households who either do not have an adequate broadband internet connection to do their homework, to actually attend online distance learning classes, or who don't have a device, an iPad or another form of tablet or laptop that allows them to participate in school in a distance learning environment. That gap, that number, 16 million, is considerably higher than we thought. By the way, 9 million kids live in households right now where they have both no broadband connection that works for this or a device. So that's a number that we simply have to fix, which is why the commitment of Cox and the NCTA and everybody else here today matters so much, because it's absolutely imperative that we close the digital divide. It's a no-brainer, and it's economically the right thing to do, and it's morally the right thing to do. Look, this divide exists in all 50 states, but a few communities really get it heavy. Number one, rural communities around the United States have particular issues with the digital divide because of connectivity issues and the lack of broadband connection. And then African American, Latinx, and Native American communities are also disproportionately affected by the digital divide. And look, it's really understanding. I'm an educator, and I see Dr. Yara is there, and we're going to hear from him, and we're going to hear about what it's like there in Clark County. But I will tell you, for a kid to not have gone to school very much this spring, then go through the summer when we already worry about learning loss. Educators like me, I'm a Stanford professor on the side, we're always talking about learning loss during the summer. Now you're into the fall. So we have students in this country who weren't really able to go to school in the spring, had a tough summer, and are also now embarking on a fall where they may not have adequate opportunities to learn. That's crazy. So we have to close the digital divide. The second thing, which I think should hit all of us, is that in addition to the students who are affected, there are about 300,000 to 400,000 K through 12 teachers in this country. Teachers, mind you, who do not have adequate internet connectivity. That's about 10% of all the public school teachers in the United States. And 100,000 teachers, in addition to the ones who lack connectivity, don't have the adequate laptops or iPads or whatever. So it's not just the students, it's even the teachers. And you know what? We can solve this as a country. And it's going to take a team effort. Industry, the government, community organizations, and folks like large organizations like Common Sense Media to close the digital divide. And the Connect to Compete program that Cox has pioneered you're going to hear about this from our friend Pat Esser shortly, but they have had a remarkable impact on closing that gap. But it's going to take more investment and more partnership to make this happen. And that's why over the past 6 months, basically ever since the pandemic happened, we've done two things at Common Sense. One, we launched an advocacy campaign called Connect All Students, which is basically saying to policymakers, educators, superintendents like Dr. Yara and others, and private companies, the industry, saying this is incumbent upon all of us to close the gap right now. So the Connect All Student campaign has been successful, but we just have more to do. And the second thing we did is we launched a platform that's now popular in all 50 states. It's related to the general Common Sense Media and Common Sense education platforms called Wide Open School, which is really a family engagement platform now that millions of kids and teachers are using every week to do some of the efforts at distance learning in their communities. So we have to basically come together and act upon all this stuff. And I will just say, I'm here because Cox has been a great partner for 15 years. And honestly, you guys have been leaders on this issue in all of the communities that you serve across the United States. And you can't pay me to come out and say that. I say that because I'm an advocate for children and schools and families. And you guys have been great. And you've been great partners for us. But at the end of the day, we should just close this digital divide. It makes absolutely no sense for this country not to make sure that every child gets the education, the online learning experience that they're going to need post-COVID-19, by the way, and have the chance for an educational opportunity that the Steyer kids have, that the Esser kids have, that the Powell kids have, and every other child has in this country. So with that, I'd say thank you so much for partnering with Common Sense Media. And let me turn it over to my friend, Pat Esser, who's the CEO of Cox. All yours, Pat.
Thank you, Jim, and thank you for those insights and for being a great partner in closing the digital divide. And I want to thank you all for your time this afternoon, or if you're on the West Coast this morning, for joining us. Connection. It's more important than ever before. And when it comes to our kids and learning, that connection is critical, just like Jim spoke about that. I'm proud of the campaign you saw highlighting what connection means for our students, because it is about practicing the ABCs of Mrs. Taylor, and it's learning about evaporation via webcam. And I'm a blessed parent because two of my kids were teachers. So I understand what the classroom is like. We've spent a lot of time talking about that as a family. I can't think of anything more important than ensuring that this learning connection for our kids gets our attention at this time. So today, our focus is on the digital learning gap. It's not a new topic. It's not a new challenge. I don't have to tell you what the pandemic has done to exacerbate the learning gap we face. It's not just about getting homework done anymore. It's about giving our kids the ability really to show up and to participate. Today, being present often means you need a home internet connection to access online education. And we recognize that here at Cox as a company. From our perspective, as what I will call an internet service provider who's focused on bridging the digital divide, we kind of see the issue in two ways. First, we got to make sure our network has the capacity to serve our communities. And then second, make sure those with the greatest needs have access to the internet. And I was speaking with the team earlier this week. In the past 5 months, we've experienced the equivalent of 2 years worth of traffic growth on our network. 2 years worth of growth in the last 5 months. That's a huge surge in use. And our network and the continuous investment that we've continued to make in it has proved it's up to the challenge. And in fact, you're going to hear from Michael here in a little bit. NCTA recently published a report that shows our network, our industry, is performing extremely well, even with the tremendous increase in use. We've also demonstrated that our network has the capacity to serve our communities, even when people are working and learning from home at accelerated rates. So that brings us really to our second goal. 1 in 4 families lack adequate internet connection at home. It's an issue we've been wrestling with for quite some time. In fact, our work on this issue goes back 20 years. It was 20 years ago that we launched an internet program for low-income families with school-age children. And through our Connect to Compete program, we've been providing our internet service at a highly discounted rate for school-age children who are enrolled in what I will call government assistance programs. And through Connect to Compete, we've made great strides in narrowing the digital divide. We've connected over 750,000 individuals since the program's inception. And we recognize it's just not about getting an internet connection. You also have to have a device that connects you to the internet, and you have to have knowledge of how to use the internet. And to help with basic digital literacy skills, we offer Connect to Compete families free access, what we call the Cox Digital Academy, an online learning program with a library of computer literacy tips or educational videos and tutorials. And now we really are entering a new phase of the digital divide. The new phase started this March when schools across the country, because of this global pandemic, had to send millions of students home. And as remote learning became widespread, the need for connectivity at home skyrocketed. And folks, we're living it with you. We have thousands of employees who are working from home, working remote, and many of them have kids at home, and they're virtually trying to learn right now. My kids, I'm blessed, are grown and they're out of the home. But I talk to parents every day, and I understand that even under the best of circumstances, it's not easy. And we're so thankful for the wonderful teachers and school administrators who are taking on this challenge of remote learning. And I'm telling you, new trails are being blazed every day, working to keep our students progressing and learning through what I would call unprecedented times that we've never seen before. You know, we've all been through a lot together, and I'm proud of what we have done to take extra steps to ensure that students have access to a strong internet connection. We're delivering a solution to make it easier for schools to get teachers and students quickly connected in bulk. Through the Cox Cares Act, we call it Solutions for Education. Through this program, we work directly with schools to fast track connections, and you will hear more about that from the rest of our speakers here coming up. We already have this up and running. We have hundreds of schools with the service operating today. We think we can get more set up here in the next few weeks. And we recognize first, it's a difficult time for our schools, and it's not a one-size-fits-all solution. We have to be able to adapt community by community to help our schools accomplish what they're trying to achieve. And in anticipation of the new school year, we did extend 2 months of free internet service to new qualifying families, along with free Wi-Fi modem service during this time. We also boosted our speeds on many of our tiers at no additional charge to make sure families with home networks had better speeds and more capacity. And we also opened up our Cox Wi-Fi outdoor hotspots to help keep the public connected during what I will call this time of need. To make sure families stay connected, as part of our relief efforts, we pledged to work with families, and we did with small businesses as well, regarding their telephone service or broadband service due to disruptions that could be caused by the pandemic. As part of that pledge, we also waived late fees that residential or small business customers incur because of their economic circumstances related to the pandemic. And now through June 30th of 2021, we are going to continue to suspend late fees and extending payment relief offerings for customers in our Connect to Compete program who express an inability to pay because of pandemic hardships. To help ensure families have internet-ready devices and knowledge, I spoke about that earlier, about how to use their internet connections, we've done a number of things. This summer in June, we were awarded a $100,000 grant from the James M. Cox Foundation, the Boys and Girls Clubs of America, to support development of a new digital programming on what they call their future platform, My Future. This platform empowers children and teens to learn new skills, share accomplishments, and it's pretty slick, it's pretty progressive, and it's a very safe environment to have our kids learning in. This summer in August, we also awarded a $100,000 grant to a group called PCs for People. It's a nonprofit that will provide discounted computers to low-income families across our footprint nationwide. Why point these things out? Because we're seeing positive results and we continue to see momentum building. So I think there is no doubt that the world looks different now, and I'd probably use the term, we're on a learning curve along with everybody else. But I truly believe that we as a company and we as an industry are built for this. And we at Cox are committed to do our part. But if there's one thing we've learned through the whole global pandemic, it's this. It's very simple. We cannot have the impact on our communities that we desire in isolation. Our commitment remains strong, but we cannot do this alone. We need to continue to partner with our cities, our school districts, and our community-based organizations to get families connected, and partner with greater organizations like Jim and Common Sense Media or the Boys and Girls Clubs of America to ensure that they have the tools they need to harness the potential of an internet connection for our kids. So with that, I'm happy to announce we'll be extending our offer to new customers that qualify for Connect to Compete. New customers that sign up for the program now before year's end will receive our low-cost internet for 2 months at no cost. In addition, we're also continuing to provide families and students free access to our Cox Wi-Fi outdoor hotspots to keep them connected. I can probably try not to show too much of my excitement here today, but this is really good. It's great to see the Cox family do this and the commitment of our shareholders. They know distance learning is now the new normal, and we're focused on removing barriers so all kids can advance in this new environment. As I said to start out, connection is more important than ever before for us all. And I would argue that our kids should be our top priority. So I'm going to now hand it over to Ashley Perkins. Ashley is the Vice President of Cox Business, and she's going to share with you more about how we're working with schools to get their families connected through our CARES Act program. Ashley?
Thanks, Pat. I'm happy to be here today to talk about how we're working with schools to connect families and teachers in an extremely unique time. So when 7,000 school districts need help, we answer the call, and we're answering that call in 7,000 different ways. In working with our districts, our states, our cities, and our counties across the country, I've heard the passion for getting each student connected and learning from home. Some school districts are in very different places when it comes to technology and distance learning, and that presents a complex challenge. So at Cox, we've been working diligently to help the schools connect families with affordable solutions and an easy process to pre-qualify and set up students with connectivity quickly. Schools are dealing with an issue that they can't solve, a very mobile family unit. On Monday, a first grader named Letitia may live with her mother in an apartment 3B, but on Tuesday and Wednesday, she may spend her after-school hours in the care of the Boys and Girls Club, while the rest of the week she lives with her paternal grandmother across town so her mom can do shift work. And that's just one of many examples. Many of our school classrooms turn over 100% of their student population each year as families move between districts. I said 100%. Our schools need more than a one-size-fits-all approach to connectivity. With the Cox CARES Act Solutions for Education, we're proud to have products and processes to connect more students and families. But first, we must understand the layered approach to the connectivity these schools face. So this may look like a sweet treat on the screen. It actually represents the elements that must be put together in our communities to provide connectivity for students and their families. That bottom layer represents the need for each student to have a robust device to connect to the internet. Many schools are in various stages of this endeavor, however. The Connect to Compete team at Cox has access to refurbished devices should a student meet those qualifications. This next layer represents the massive infrastructure of land-based fiber and coax internet services that provide Cox Connect to Compete or our CARES Act internet services to our customers. We can get students online from their homes and provide them Wi-Fi access to do schoolwork anywhere in their home. Schools like Clark County School District in Las Vegas, who you will hear from shortly, are providing a best-in-class process for getting their students online. Just above that layer, Cox Managed Wi-Fi provides untethered connectivity in places like apartments where multiple families live and now work. In fact, the city of Tulsa in Oklahoma is bringing a best practice to communities by providing managed Wi-Fi to all Section 8 housing in the city limits. That's a huge investment of CARES dollars that will pay dividends to their city and to their schools. The next layer represents community-based Wi-Fi access points. In several of our communities, libraries and city offices have opened their outdoor Wi-Fi, and all Cox accounts have access to the many Cox-provided access points in the communities we serve. That access comes free of charge with Cox Internet. And lastly, Wireless technology can provide mobile services as students find themselves traveling between school districts or back and forth to work with a parent. As an industry, as a community, and as a people, we must work together. No one technology can solve all the various situations that our schools are facing. At Cox, we're making it easier than ever for students to get connected with our CARES Act education solution set. It includes Cox Connect to Compete, our low-cost internet solution, plus our CARES Act-specific Cox Internet speed tiers, with no eligibility requirements that are available in 2 levels. We're working with organizations like our schools, our cities, and our counties, and even our states, where we can provide access to our CARES Starter Internet and CARES Essential Internet. Both come with free, easy connect options and include equipment. Our managed Wi-Fi handles our apartments and multifamily housing, along with community access points for outdoor and public areas. Our students can stay connected if we work together. It's never been more affordable, and many of our schools have worked with us to connect students and families that need it most. However, we know through the research Jim just shared earlier, there are millions of students still without access. I urge our school districts to reach out to us. We are ready to partner with you to get your families connected. We've created an online destination to learn more about CARES Act solutions at cox.com/CARES Act. We have account teams in Cox Business, the ones that manage your school accounts, and a CARES Act coordinator on standby waiting to work with you. As Pat said, connection is more important than ever. Now is the time for schools to leverage CARES Act dollars to connect families and ensure bright futures for our youth. As we all know, our teachers have had to get really creative to keep students engaged in this new format. To set the stage for this next speaker and the creativity this district has shown to get their students online, we will show you a video and then be joined by the superintendent of the 5th largest school district in the country, Dr. Jesus Jara, the superintendent of Clark County School District in Las Vegas, Nevada.
Good morning, students.
Professor Ramona and I are going to be working on fractions today.
Encuentra el país.
Alas, poor Yorick. I knew him.
Excuse me. Ay, de nuevo.
Teachers are doing whatever it takes to connect with their students.
202.
And Cox is too, by connecting over 140,000 eligible students in need with low-cost internet.
Who wants to see it again?
With the Connect to Compete program from Cox.
Allow me to introduce Dr. Jesus Jara from the Las Vegas, Nevada School District, Clark County. Thank you, Dr. Jara, for joining us today.
Well, thank you for having me, and good morning and good afternoon for all of you in the East Coast. It's a pleasure to be here with you, and I just want to go back and mention a couple things that Jim, when Jim was talking about what COVID-19 has done in across the country, across the world. It just really amplified, put a magnifying glass on the inequities in public education. And the digital divide was critical when we were closing and shutting down schools. I'll go back in March 16 when we started shutting our schools down to really protect our kids and our families and our employees. One of the things that we were not even ready for this, it was crisis mode. And I'll tell you, Cox Communications really as a community reached out and said, what can we do? It's not every school, not every student had a device and really connectivity. So we were really on a triage and really finding ways to connect our kids. And the partnership that we had just started really building where Cox really started putting on some of our lessons and teachers and provided opportunities for our teachers to get on the channels to then start providing one-way instruction. So really appreciate the partnership there. Then we moved on and really started developing how do we then start putting our federal dollars. So it's an entire, I would say here in Clark County, Las Vegas has been an entire community effort from not only our business partners, but then it started from the federal government when the CARES Act dollars came in for us to be able to start ordering and bringing in devices. My team ordered 135,000 devices for our students, 320,000 children. When we closed down at a 70% free and reduced lunch, that means 70% of the children that I serve are living in poverty. So imagine the population, imagine the kids, imagine the need in this community. Not only are we the 5th largest district in the country, we are the 4th largest rural district in the state of Nevada. So I have close to 8,000 kids that are living in my rural community. So the connectivity was greatly needed for us. So moving forward to the governor's task force, when the governor's office, and really how do we connect them, when we knew that opening of school August 24th was going to be in a distance model, how do we get our kids not only with a device, but then how do we get them connected? Using our federal CARE dollars, we partnered with Cox Communication and said, we need not only our children, but our employees to have that connectivity at home, because we knew the great need that we had. So in really looking at creating a family support center, when we started saying, how do we connect our kids? How do we attract and really reach out to every single student to be able to have that connectivity at home? I'm proud to report that as of this morning, 98% of the kids through a roll call has been completed. We still have students that we are processing, and really where Derek Hill here, our local partner, has been intimately involved on biweekly calls. What do you need, superintendent? What do we do? How do we, as a partner, are committed to you? We have 5,900 and students that are still confirming with technology that communications that have been processed. We still have about 3% of our children that have not been connected. So how do we continue the effort? So it's really this great partnership that we, from the private sector, in really connecting our kids. So very proud of the work with a family support center as we continue to expedite the processing and really the expansion of the connectivity at home. We have seen the upgrade because now and I think Pat, your CEO, talked about the huge use. Now our more kids are connected. How do we then open up the access for our families so we don't lose that connectivity? So really excited about the partnership and the work that we're doing. Now we have ways to go. I'm not going to say that it's been easy, but really the 42,000 employees that I have the honor to serve as their superintendent have been more creative, but it really has been a labor of love by our entire community, from our government officials, our private business partners that have really partnered with us to make sure that our children are connected to technology and we eliminate the digital divide. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce one of our heroes here in Southern Nevada, our great senator who has been instrumental, has been bringing us the CARE dollars for us to be able to provide the support for our children. So, I know that there's a video from Senator Jackie Rosen in really talking about this great partnership in the great Clark County School District in Las Vegas. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Senator Jackie Rosen, and I'm proud to represent our great state of Nevada in the United States Senate. I want to thank Cox Communications for hosting this event and for the opportunity to speak on an incredibly important topic, overcoming the digital divide. During this pandemic, we've had to shift how we educate our children in Nevada. We've seen incredible passion, resolve, and resourcefulness by teachers and administrators who have moved classes to an online setting. However, we still face challenges. I've recently had the chance to virtually travel across the state and meet with individuals and businesses in all corners of Nevada, and one issue that keeps coming up is the need for increased access to reliable broadband. Far too few students and teachers in Nevada have access to reliable internet in order to continue their education online. And this technology has the potential to improve the lives of Nevadans in a multitude of ways, especially when it comes to how our students connect and learn during this difficult time. When students don't have access to the internet, they lack a powerful educational tool. And no child should have to struggle with being able to complete their homework or their studies, and no class should suffer because of a lack of access to reliable internet. But it doesn't have to be this way. With increased access to broadband, we can invest in our children's education, helping to support and improve our communities, our state, and our nation. That's why, As a member of the Senate Subcommittee on Communications, Technology, Innovation, and the Internet, I've made expanding access to broadband a top priority. Working with partners across the aisle, I've been able to introduce and advance bipartisan legislation to help close the digital divide. It's also why I supported the Emergency Educational Connections Act, legislation that would help ensure that K-12 students have greater home internet connectivity and access to devices during the coronavirus pandemic. And it's why I'm glad to see the incredible work of public-private partnerships right here in Nevada and the work you are doing to assist families who may be struggling. Cox Communications' partnership with Clark County Public Schools to provide internet access is up to 20,000 students. It's truly remarkable. And your work to provide online safety software and tools to students' devices is remarkable as well. Your Connect Kids Nevada initiative is doing incredible work to help our Nevada students. By working together, we can provide increased broadband deployment and increased internet access to improve the lives of Nevadans. Thank you for the work you're doing, and together, let's get Nevada connected.
Hi, it's NECA again. I'm back. And this time I hope you can hear my audio perfectly clearly. Life in the digital age, this is what it is. Now I am really very pleased to introduce our next speaker. His name is Michael Powell, and he is the president and CEO of NCTA, the Internet Television Association. He leads one of the largest associations in DC, in America really, and he represents the communications and content industries. Now, during his service as chair of the Federal Communications Commission from 1997 through 2005, the internet came into widespread commercial use along with smartphones, satellite radio, and Wi-Fi networks. He speaks publicly about the importance of making the way ready for the next generation. You can often hear people speak fondly about Michael Powell being an ambassador of understanding. And today, he'll share with us how the industry is doing so much to drive closure towards the digital divide through the education superhighway. And so again, I'm pleased to introduce you all to Dr. Professor Michael Powell. Over to you, Mike.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's great to be with you. And let me start by just thanking Pat and the entire Cox team for your leadership in tackling what really is a monumental issue. And I like one of the earlier speakers referred to it as a nearly moral issue. It's truly an essential ingredient in decreasing inequality in our society. It's also great to share a screen with my dear friend, Jim Steyer, who I've worked with for close to 20 years on children's issues. Simply put, there's just no better child advocate in this nation. And I also want to express some admiration to Dr. Hara, who is on the ground fighting to keep our kids learning despite these enormous challenges. You know, the industry I represent, the cable industry, has long embraced the challenge of bridging the digital divide. But these times are different. The shadow of a pandemic has spread across our country, and it's causing us to double our efforts to connect every student where we can. COVID, of course, has forced an unprecedented amount of societal activity that has to take place in our homes, over the internet as a lifeline. But none is more important than the daunting challenge of educating our children online and outside the schoolhouse. As we all know, taking class online is not ideal, but it is a critical and indispensable part of the public health effort to get the disease under control. Such a response wouldn't even be possible without America's broadband networks, and we're committed to doing everything we can to help our kids continue their education. You know, over the last decade, we've connected over 10 million individuals to the internet through low-income programs like the one you heard about, Cox's Connect to Compete. But we need to do more, and indeed we want to do more. Despite our best efforts over the summer and our best hopes, the COVID pandemic forced thousands of schools to stay closed this fall. And we wanted to do something about that. And so we recently launched a groundbreaking new initiative in which the cable broadband industry, including providers like Cox, will work directly with school districts to first identify students who do not have broadband service, and then allow the school district to purchase those services at a discount rate for those low-income students. This program we're calling K-12 Bridge to Broadband, and it was launched with the national nonprofit Education Superhighway, who has worked for the last decade tirelessly to ensure that every classroom in this country had an internet connection. But now that the classroom for millions of students has moved to the living room, we're thrilled to work with Education Superhighway to develop and launch this new and critical initiative. The national program is modeled on partnerships like the one Cox has with Clark County Schools, and it's being made available to every school district in our entire cable service area. And since our initial announcement in early September, we are excited that other segments of the internet service industry are following suit and are joining the effort to increase the program's scale and allowing us to reach many more kids. You know, put shortly, I'm often asked, can we really close the digital divide? Well, of course we can. But it will take a community of partners. It'll take an immense amount of hard work, serious, long-lasting commitment, and a lot of resources. I'm very proud that the cable industry is going to lean into that problem. And I'm particularly happy that Cox is lighting the way. So thank you for letting me be with you today, and back to you, Pat.
Thank you, Michael. And I want to thank you publicly for your leadership and the tireless work and effort that goes on with the team at NCTA to lead our industry. I think all of those on the webcast today probably know by now our message is pretty clear. This is a team effort. And hearing from people like Michael and Senator Rosen and Dr. Jesus Jara and Jim is invaluable and underscores the need to work together to ensure all students have the tools they need to succeed. And I want to thank each of you for joining us today. Thank you to the press and local leaders listening and watching the event today. Thank you to the school districts that have joined as well. And thank you, NECA, for facilitating this important discussion. Now today, I'm proud to announce that we are strengthening our commitment to the digital learning gap through our Connect to Compete program with a $60 million pledge over the next year. As you can see, I'm very optimistic about our future, but I remind everyone, we can't do this alone. We must work together. Driving impact of this scope and this complexity does not happen in isolation. So we'll continue to do our part, and we will continue to partner with our cities, with our school districts, and our community organizations. And we encourage everyone to join us and support the growth and development of our next generation of leaders. Connection is more important than ever before. Thank you for joining us today.
Wow. Talk about a mic drop, $60 million. I mean, Pat, way to go, way to close out. Ashley, we saw earlier in the program, Ashley show us a cake, but Pat definitely put serious icing on that cake with that announcement. I mean, I don't know what to say. I feel really honored. I feel blessed actually to work for a company that walks the talk when it comes to bridging the digital divide and giving opportunities to so many students and families in need at this time. And I just want to express my thanks, Pat. You talked about, blazing a trail as a company, but thank you for your leadership and all the folks who spoke earlier for your leadership in blazing the trail. Folks, we're at time. I wish I had confetti to throw because this is a celebratory moment, at least for us at Cox, and I'm sure for all the wonderful kids and families in the various districts across the country. For more information on all the stuff that you heard today, the Education Superhighway, Clark County, what's going on in Nevada, our Care Solutions Act, and more, the 60M that Pat just dropped. For all that and more, you can visit several resources that will show as soon as I close. You can visit cox.com/CARES Act, lowercase. You can visit NCTA's page and check out the Education Superhighway. You can visit Common Sense Media, so many resources, but the slide will come up in a second. Thank you so much, everyone. It's been my distinct pleasure to be with you today. Until next time, have a wonderful day and stay tuned for more great things from us at Cox. Bye.